Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be customizing the Karin Kuruma Armored in Grand Theft Auto Online. I've never done a customization of this vehicle on the channel, and I'm very excited to today. I think that this is going to be a pretty good one. I know that the Kuruma Armored doesn't have a whole lot of customization that can be done, but I'm still excited nonetheless. We're going to start off with the brakes. Of course, there is no armor upgrade on this vehicle because it is the Karin Kuruma Armored already. For the bumpers, we do have a few different options that we can pick. I kind of like the look of the carbon front splitter. However, the secondary might be kind of interesting. Let's put on the secondary color front splitter quickly. For the engine, we are going to go all the way up on that. For the exhaust, we have the oval exhaust, the race exhaust, and of course the chrome tip. The race exhaust is definitely a fan favorite, I would say, but I think I'm going to go for the oval exhaust today because the titanium is cool, but I don't really like the shade of it on the Kuruma, so we're going to not put that on this thing. However, we are going to put the headlights on this, and we are also going to put the neon kit on all sides. We're going to leave it white. We're not going to change the color of that, I don't think. For the plate, we are going to go yellow on black though, for sure. And for the respray of the car itself, I think that this car does look pretty good in matte colors. However, it also does look pretty good in metallic, I have to say. So we can definitely do something interesting with this. I wouldn't mind going for like a black primary maybe, and then for the secondary do like a slightly lighter shade. Maybe for like, I don't know actually, maybe not. Maybe we do the black as the secondary actually. Let's do black as the secondary, and then for the primary color, what if we actually go white? Oh, you know what? That's not even bad looking. Could also go for like a red or something like that. Ooh, Torino red is kind of lethal. Kind of like that. Also don't mind it in like an orange or something, but it just reminds me of Halloween, and that's not really what I'm going for right now. I feel like the Kuruma does look really good in a yellow. I think that what if we go for a matte yellow? That's not terrible. Honestly, I kind of like this car in matte colors. Let's do matte yellow for the primary, and then for the secondary, we'll do matte black. That's pretty good looking. I feel like this is a pretty like basic or more like common customization for the Kuruma, but I do think that it looks pretty good. For the skirts on this thing, we can go for a couple of different options here. We have quite a few actually. I do kind of like the secondary color slick skirt, but the secondary color street skirt is also good. I think the slick just looks a tiny bit better, so we'll go for that option. For the spoiler, we can do the secondary color spoiler. I don't mind that at all. We also have the carbon wing, the color coded wing, carbon wing type 2, and of course the GT wing as well. I do feel like I kind of like the color coded wing a little bit. However, the secondary color stock spoiler isn't bad either. Both of them are really tempting. I do think that the color-coded wing is going to be a little bit nicer on the handling for this car, so let's actually pick that, just because it's like one of the lower wings on the car. Could also go for the carbon wing though. The carbon wing isn't a bad option, but I feel like the color-coded actually matches up with the car nicely, so let's just go for that. For the suspension, we are going to lower it all the way down. The Kuruma does need to be lowered for sure. Race transmission, we will go for that. The turbo as well for sure. For the wheels, I'm kind of tempted to see, what the concave mega mesh look like on this thing. I haven't gone for the concaves in a while, and I do feel like they look pretty good on this car. They don't clip with the brake calipers either. We're going to go for the concave mega mesh. We're going to do these in a black. I think that looks pretty darn good. Of course, there is actually no bulletproof tire option for this car because it comes with bulletproof tires stock, so that is pretty nice. For the windows, we are going to tint these all the way out, and with that being said, I think that we are pretty much done for the customization of the Kuruma. Let's take this thing down to the ground. We're going to do a sound test and of course a full review on the car. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the armored Kuruma. It definitely has a pretty cool like turbo noise, but other than that, it's a pretty basic sound, I would say. But not to say it's horrible. The interior of this car is very basic. There's like nothing, interesting really about it. It is kind of cool to see how the windows look from the inside. The Karin Kuruma Armored is one of the most bulletproof vehicles in the entire game. Next to, I'd say, probably the half track. The half track has a completely invulnerable front windshield and rear window as well. The side windows on that thing are completely not bulletproof at all though. With the Karin Kuruma, there are a few spots where you can get spammed by certain guns, and especially if people are using like AP rounds, like armor piercing rounds, those definitely will help to kill somebody who's driving an armored Kuruma. But for the majority of the time, I would say the Karin Kuruma armored is about 95% bulletproof. It's very hard to get killed out of this thing by like cops or something like that, say. However, the only real issue with it is against players, it will only take one explosive. It's very weak, and honestly the term armored for this vehicle I feel like is completely unjust. I would say it should be called like the Karin Kuruma bulletproof or bullet resistant or something like that. Obviously that doesn't sound as good, but that is a more fitting term, because the armored is kind of misleading because this thing has absolutely no armor from explosives, which is what I would kind of consider armor to be. Maybe my definition of armor is wrong, but I would say that the Karin Kuruma armored isn't quite deserving of the name. But regardless, it is still a pretty good car. It is pretty useful. Definitely one of the greatest vehicles for using against NPCs in GTA, especially in missions or in free mode missions. This thing is, phenomenal for that sort of thing. And it can take a lot more bullets than a regular car. I'd say it can probably take double the amount that the average car off the street could take, maybe even triple, depending on where you are shooting it. So the Karin Kuruma Armored isn't a great vehicle for free mode, but it is very good for missions. So that is what I will say about it. But of course, we have to talk about the performance of the Karin Kuruma Armored. The Karin Kuruma Armored and the regular Karin Kuruma both have pretty much identical ability, except the Karin Kuruma Armored just feels a lot heavier than the regular Karin Kuruma, which you would expect given the window plating that's on this thing and all of that sort of stuff, the armored roof and all that. So it does make sense that the armored version does feel a little bit heavier and is therefore a little bit worse handling wise, as well as acceleration wise and everything like that. This thing is just a little bit slower than its unarmored counterpart. With that being said though, it's not bad, and depending on the upgrades that you put on this thing, you can vastly improve the handling or vastly make the handling a lot worse. For example, if you pick the giant spoiler option on this car, or just any of the real big spoiler options, the back end of this car is going to have a very weird handling characteristic where when you're going around a corner, the car understeers, and then all of a sudden the back will almost jump up and jump out on you and cause you to kind of oversteer, but oversteer very uncontrollably. I would say it's not a very good car as far as handling goes, I would say. However, with the build that I've gone for today, it was a little bit purposeful, picking the smaller spoiler as well as putting that neon kit on to try to get the center of gravity of the car as low as possible, as well as lowering the suspension. That has seemed to improve the overall handling of the Karin Kuruma Armored quite significantly, I would say. Typically, this thing is not the greatest handling vehicle. I've actually said many times in the past that I don't really like the handling of the Karin Kuruma Armored, but with this setup that I've gone for today, it seems to be pretty manageable. Actually, it seems to be pretty good. I'm not hating driving this thing, so that is a big plus over my usual thoughts towards the Karin Kuruma Armored. But yeah, the handling, it definitely can be bad depending on the customization options that you pick. The lower the wing, generally the better the handling will be. Same with putting the neon kit on, you are lowering the center of gravity of the car, and it does seem to have quite an effect with the Karin Kuruma Armored. But anyway guys, that is to do with the handling. As far as the acceleration goes, it's not terrible, especially off the line. I think that the added weight with the Karin Kuruma Armored really lets this thing kind of fly off the line. It is pretty quick, I have to say. It is an all-wheel drive vehicle as well, so that is quite handy to have in most situations. If you ever had to go off-roading with this thing or whatever, the all-wheel drive is definitely a big plus when it comes to that sort of thing. As far as top speed goes, this thing isn't very high up there. It maxes out at, I'd say, 120-ish. That is my assumption. I believe that it's somewhere in that neighborhood, though. It could be a little bit lower, it could be a little bit higher, but it's not that fast top speed wise. So if you're trying to get from point to point on the map really quick, the Karin Kuruma Armored is not going to be super great for you. Overall, it is a decent car. If you have the trade price, this thing goes for just under $500K, and if you don't have the trade price, I believe it goes for just over $725,000, which either of those prices are not bad. You can unlock the trade price by completing the Fleeca job, which will pay you about 80 grand. So you might as well do that. You'll get 80 grand out of it, and you'll also save, like 225K as well. So pretty worth it, I would say. Of course, I am customizing and reviewing this vehicle when it's on sale. So for the sale price, you should absolutely buy a Karin Kuruma Armored if you don't have one already. This is like, you know, it's honestly a great vehicle to have in GTA. You know, even if you only use it for missions, it's still worth owning for sure. It definitely can make you a good amount of money. And for heists and things like that, it is very useful, I would say. Even for most scenarios in free mode, I would say it is okay to use. Just if you're getting chased by like an Oppressor Mark II or anything like that, or like a jet or a tank or whatever, you just know you're toast pretty much. But beyond that, I would say at any price level, the Karin Kuruma Armored is pretty good. Even if you're paying full price without the trade price, I would still pick this car up. It is still very good, although I would definitely recommend doing the Fleece job to unlock the trade price first, get paid 80 grand, and then, you know, go from there. But yeah, at any price level, this thing is definitely worth owning. Obviously, the cheaper that you can get it, the better. But if you want to buy it at full price, then by all means buy it at full price. You're definitely not going to regret your purchase, I don't think. The Kuruma Armored is very, very good. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is it for the Karin Kuruma Armored customization and review in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let me know what you guys thought of my customization in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, if not, dislike. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.